I'm love. One man in the name of love. In the name of love. What more in the name of love? One man come in the name of love. One man come and go. One man come here to justify. One man to overthrow. In the name of love. One man in the name of love. In the name of love. What more in the name of love? One man caught on a barbed wire fence. One man he resists. One man washed on an empty beach. One man betrayed with a kiss. In the name of love. What more in the name of love? In the name of love. What more in the name of love? In the name of love.
John Van Auken, director of the Edgar Cayce Foundation, one of the most prolific writers and teachers on the planet today. Round of applause for John Van Auken.
Thank you very much. I've left a little time for us to kind of process a little bit. If you have questions,
Hi, John.
hi.
So, there has been a lot of information through David Wilcock.
Oh yeah, David.
Can you tell me if it is true that David Wilcock says that he is a reincarnation of Edgar Cayce?
I will. David lived in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where the A.R.E. headquarters is, and I was CEO back then. I was the executive director. Now I'm the director of the Edgar Cayce Foundation. He came to me and he shared with me his feelings that he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. He hoped that I would share this information with others and appoint him a position and let him start giving readings and all. And I said, David, I can't do that right yet. I'll tell you what. I want to set up meetings with Edgar Cayce's son and his grandson, who are key members of our staff and board of trustees, and let them interview you and see how they feel. He said, oh, that sounds great. That's cool. I said, okay, good. So I set up the interviews. He met with them. Then I went and met with Edgar's son and grandson, and they both told me they talked with him for 2 hours, and it's not their father reincarnate. So I called David back. I said, David, what can I do? I have got the son and grandson of Edgar Cayce, members of the board of trustees, telling me you are not reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. I can't do anything. I said, but I promise you this, the A.R.E. will never say anything bad about you. You go do whatever your soul moves you to do, and you can rely on us not coming down on you unless you do something really bad. And I used to get letters all the time and emails, and honestly, it was 50-50. I would get 50% the greatest reading I ever had, and 50% I don't know who he was talking about.
Edgar Cayce actually predicted his next lifetime. I think the belief is from the A.R.E. that Edgar Cayce is not on the planet at this time, but his next lifetime is coming in what year?
2,158. I said 158, not 58, okay? In Nebraska. Yes. But here's the real kicker. He and his feminine are united in one body. They are really together. In other words, we know who his twin soul was. Twin means the yin of his yang. It was his stenographer. It was the woman that was taking all the information, categorizing it, indexing it for all of us to study. They were feminine and masculine of the higher soul, of the oversoul. You understand? Well, they're going to incarnate as one in the body in 2158. By the way, he says, we won't be using the airfoil wings we do on planes. We'll be flying in cylindrical devices. The style will be shaved heads. I'm going to have to get used to that. He goes on and on about what it'll be like then. Yes, okay.
John, who added the huge crystals to the A.R.E. meditation room in Virginia Beach?
Tib donated to the A.R.E. meditation room 3 giant stones, an amethyst geode, a huge lapis, and a gigantic crystal, and he wanted them put a certain way. Well, you know, I meditated in there for 30 years before he, no, more than 30. But anyway, before he put his stuff in there. So I'm in the meditation room doing my thing, you know, the staff's in there, we're all meditating. Then he moves these stones in. And I'm telling you, we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he says, oh, don't worry, it gets better after it builds after a while. But he has designed the vibrational coordination in our meditation room at headquarters with 3 magnificent stones that he's worked out the vibes. And now we get constant feedback from people. What did you do in that room? You know, I almost left my body. And that's Tib's great insight from that massive Atlantean incarnation with the crystals and all. So he's done a lot for A.R.E. and Edgar Cayce. Okay, I have left us enough time for a few questions. If you have some, yes, sir.
I experienced that same crystal meditation room when I went to A.R. before, was there then after.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't been back. I took my friend here. We were like, whoa.
Whoa. So he was at the meditation room before Tib's stones and after, and he's affirming what we experience.
The only question is the port.
Yeah?
What kind of port was it? Do you know what kind of specific port in that corner?
In the corner, I will have to ask Tib. When he comes back, you know, I'll get him to, he's asking me what kind of crystal is in the meditation room. I don't really know, but Tib would know. Anything else?
Did Edgar Cayce give any readings on aliens or ETs?
You might not be aware, but Edgar Cayce talked about this. He actually said in the coming age that we're moving into, the people of the earth are going to meet the people of the universe. You know how he gave a lot of past life readings. That was one of his main things. Well, to one young woman, he was going through her past lives. You know, he would get in trance. This young lady came to get a life reading. And in the course of saying her past life in France, and then she was in the Roman times, then she was in ancient Egypt, he casually says, and she was the princess of the Maya when this planet was being visited from other planets, other worlds. And everybody went, whoa, aliens, UFOs, how far out? So we do have support in the Edgar Cayce reading for this concept. Now here's a fun reading I wanted to share with you. Do you know we had non-physical spirit colonies on the moon? And Cayce gives a reading for a young girl, when she was a young girl. And here is the reading. As it has been often presented by one school of thought, the dwellers upon the moon, that's his parenthetical statement, the satellite of the earth, preceded the abilities for matter. So this was before you were actually in incarnate bodies on the earth, expressed in a form that is known as matter in the earth, but it was this more subtle matter. You were living colonies on the moon. He actually says there are records still on the moon in the caves, and you'll find them. And this entity was among those that so dwelt, and is influenced by 2 sojourns on the moon. Her mother told her that told us actually that when she was 3 or 4 years old, she used to gather the neighborhood children and tell them stories about the moon and what she did when she used to live on the moon. The mother explains that she was nearly 2 years old before she learned to sleep at night. She would sleep during the day and stay up at night when the moon was out. Can you feel that about yourself too? You know? Okay, questions if you have some. Yes, sir.
Can you speak about the Great Atlantis crystal and rejuvenation in Atlantis?
In Atlantis, they developed this wonderful crystal that could cleanse you and rejuvenate you. And Edgar gives readings for people who went to the crystal, and it would like consume their body and purify it, and they would live. He told one of them she went to the crystal so often she lived 6,000 years in physical body. What Edgar was talking about when he said, through the same form of fire, the bodies of individuals were regenerated by the burning through the application of the rays from the stone. Hence, the body rejuvenated itself often and remained in that land until the eventual destruction of Atlantis. So I actually experienced this, and it was just life-changing. And actually, for a few years after, and still now to some degree I can do it, but I've had other experiences that take me a different way. But for a few years after, all I had to do was close my eyes and go back into that. And I just... You know, and people would say things to me like, wow, you're a different person. Yeah. Not carrying any guilt, I can tell you that. Which really weighs you down. Atlantean mistakes. I want to skip over this a little bit. The trouble here basically was the Atlanteans lost their attunement and they misdialed the crystal, and it was tuned too high and destroyed the areas, and that was very upsetting. Here are the 2 areas, Atlantis and Lemuria. Those islands out there are the mountaintops of what used to be Atlantis, and Edgar Cayce says the migrations were to all those lands you see there. They migrated.
Did Cayce speak of ancient flying ships and the Vimana of ancient India?
Oh, yeah. There are ancient flying devices and all that we were flying long before Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And you could actually fly. And as you can see in these stone carvings on the wall in India, Ezekiel's wheels. See Ezekiel's wheel? He said the spirit inside the wheel would move it. When Edgar was asked what was that wheel, he said it was an Atlantean flying machine. Here's a Vimana with Sanskrit words describing how it works, and there are records in ancient India of these devices. This particular Vimana was said to have flown by heating mercury. Now we know in a mercury thermometer, it rises as it heats, but no one, I talked to several scientists, have figured out how this flying device could use heated mercury to really fly through the atmosphere. But here's the records from the ancient times. There's some belief that these things are actually there, carved in stone as reminders. And the reason for that is we knew we were descending into less and less awareness, so we recorded a lot of it. And Edgar said those are the Atlantean records that will be rediscovered on the ascent back out, and these will help speed up our ascent. Here I'm in the very temple that I had the cleansing experience in, and do you see the beam there? I've blown it up in gold. You see flying devices carved on that ancient Egyptian temple beam. Do you see them? You see something like a helicopter, something like an airplane, something like a submarine. carved right there on that beam.
You call it toning, throat singing, and how can I learn more? You call it toning, throat singing, and how can I learn more? You call it toning, throat singing, and how can I learn more?
Oh, yeah. Edgar Cayce actually teaches in a series of readings how other dimensions, what they're like. And he does start out by saying it will be very hard for your three-dimensional mind to understand this, but I will give you phrases. So this is the layout, and let me explain the layout. On the right side in the purple or violet is your soul's celestial activities. On the left side is your incarnate personality living a life in the earth. And he shows this one particular soul is 294, and he shows that that soul came, now go to the bottom of the diagram, that soul came out of the sun, the source of all life, incarnated in ancient Egypt, and became the high priest Rata. When it died, it left to the Stargate Arcturus, and there gained universal consciousness because the Stargate was connected to the vast infinity. Then it came back in Persia as Yult and manifested physically as Yult. And it was doing high idealism work until it was assassinated by the Greeks. So what happens? He goes out on a quick return. His body is murdered, so his soul has to leave. The body is dead, it won't function, but he is upset, and he looks for revenge. So if you want to get revenge on the Greeks, where's your next incarnation? Troy. Yes, he incarnates in Troy with revenge on his mind, and they capture the beautiful Helen of Greece. I know we call her Helen of Troy, but let's not forget the story. You kidnapped her from Greece and brought her back. Anyway, they break in through the 12th gate, and he happens to be one of the guards of the 12th gate, so he kills himself because Troy is destroyed by the Greeks by a trick. So he commits suicide. And now he goes to Jupiter because Arcturus has left his soul feeling universal consciousness, and yet he has this bitterness over a certain group that he felt has tricked him and also assassinated him. And so he's mad at humans that are mean and don't appreciate his love and universality. Well, Jupiter helps him understand the broader universal collective, and he becomes aware of dark and light forces and how he must become sharper like Jesus, until you get to a point. And when I got to that point, I realized my narrow vision, and what you realize, the God you're communicating with, or consider it the creative forces, the universal consciousness, the infinite, loves all of them too, wants all of them also. Then suddenly you realize, and Edgar Cayce gave a reading for a guy who was learning how to really fire up his chakras using breathing techniques, and he was having altered experiences, altered states of consciousness. And one time he was asking for more information, and Edgar interrupted him during a reading and says, "You think it's far greater to be one of the children of God? It is far greater to be one with them. You're building a heaven all by yourself, and you are not going to want to be there when you get there. As disgusting as they are, you must go out and engage them as best as possible to help them and yourself, because all of you are going to be there in the end." Now I understood what Jesus meant, the second's like the first, But for a long time, I couldn't see that at all. So, any questions? If you have questions, hi.
John, what are crystals and gems? Really, are they alive? And do they assist us in being positive?
They are means to help you, and wearing them help you. But keep in mind, you're carrying the spirit of the creative forces within you, and you're just looking for things to help you enhance that and awaken to it and keep it fully manifested in your life. And remember, your attitude, your tone, your thoughts affect the crystallization dynamics and the energy. So watch anger, temper, negativity. Even when it's justified, I would say, leave it alone. You know? Now, righteous anger can be good in some situations, but don't let it possess your heart or your total consciousness, or start that darn loop thinking where you can never forget what she said about you. Those of you who have been married know exactly what that's like. My wife would bring up things that I couldn't even remember. And I said, when did I say that? She said, you remember about 20 years ago when we were in so... No, I have no memory of that. Well, it hurt. Yes, sir.
So, did Cayce himself wear gemstones?
I'm sorry, what?
Did Cayce wear gemstones himself?
Did Cayce wear gemstones? He had the crystal ball near him, and he had some lapis because Mr. 440, Hastings, brought him tons of stuff. He wore one ring, but it was a gold ring with a symbol on it. And so, was there another question here somewhere? Yeah.
I have heard this and it upsets me. Did Cayce ever drink?
Here's a question. What was the Tuaoi stone? Of what shape or form was it? So there is the Atlantean crystal, and there are several of them actually, power stations around different areas. Then there's the Tuaoi stone. Do not confuse these two. This is the Tuaoi stone, which was an evolved stone of great power. It was in the form of a six-sided figure in which the light appears as the means of communication between infinity and the finite, or the means whereby there were the communications with those forces from the outside. So you could actually use it, tune in, and pick up the communication from unseen dimensions, and he's going as far as the infinite dimensions. It was set as a crystal, though in quite a different form from that used there. And as I told you last night, Aileen, the priestess of Atlantis, rejuvenated her body frequently by attuning her chakras to the energy coming through the crystal stone, and she lived 6,000 years until... It was in those periods when there was the directing of airplanes or means of travel through these in that time would travel in the air or in the water, under the water, just the same. Yet the force from which these were directed was in the central power station or Tuaoi stone, which was the beam upon which it acted. In the beginning, it was the source from which there was the spiritual mental contact. Now, what he's referencing here, and Tib referenced yesterday morning, about 210,000 BC, the beginning of Atlantis, and it was high wisdom, high intelligence, high spiritual and mental attunement, super powerful, what we would call super powerful. Edgar said, even though it appeared supernatural to us, it was natural to our souls and our higher minds. All right, we got a couple of more. Okay, we'll go way to the back. Yeah.
Can you speak about the phi crystals, the Vogel phi crystals?
Here are the Vogel crystals, and the idea that a crystal in a certain shape can act as a wand. And as you can see, this is the feminine end, and energy or light can come in, and light is energy in a certain form, and exits through the masculine end and can be directed like a wand. Here you see the setup, and the angles of these degrees are very important, and you know Tib has talked about 51 degrees, 51 minutes, exact same slope of the Great Pyramid. Then you have a sharper angle here as it's coming out. Here's Tib's diagram of this, showing the phi energy here. This symbol is considered the golden ratio. And the golden ratio, also known as the golden proportion, golden mean, golden section, golden number, divine proportion, or sectio divina. The ancient Pythagoreans, who defined numbers as an expression of ratios, not as units used commonly today, believed that reality is numerical and that the golden ratio expressed an underlying truth about existence. So if that's true, this may actually be a very powerful little healing device. And Vogel actually used it that way, directing it towards spiritual centers in the body, certain organs in the body, using it as a wand in which the energy would go through. Here's a 6-sided crystal ready to be cut. Here are some right here with these diagrams showing how you would prepare such a beautiful, magnificent wand for channeling energy flow. All right, we got a couple of more. Okay, we'll go way to the back. Yeah.
Hi John. I understand Edgar Cayce recommended Lapis Lazuli more than any other gem. So, can you speak about the benefits of Lapis?
The Lapis Lazuli, Edgar called it a spiritual stone. The entity should ever wear about the body the Lapis Lazuli or the Lapis Linguis, for these will bring strength to the body through those vibrations that are brought or built in the innate experience of the entity from its sojourn in ancient Egyptian land. Many of you, your souls did this in previous lives, and you built skill and wisdom, and you know how to do this. It's latent within you. And so if you can find that, tap into it and start using it, it really explodes into the present. Because Edgar says that nothing's lost. Whatever you did in the past, you can bring forward. Now here's Lazuli, and as you can see, there's pyrite mixed in, and here's the calcite, and you see this in Lapis Lazuli. I'm just showing you some of the, and here's beautiful jewelry. Edgar was asked to examine the lapis stone. Let me see, this is from the lapis that Tib was talking about. Explain the various uses and recommend those that would be. It is necessary for this mind or body seeking same to consider the analysis of the composition of the stones as related to their vibrations and related then to a human body. The vibrations bring those that are of a positive and negative natures in the very stones. The very nature of the stone makes it effective with any body, but the more effective with one that is more in accord with. How many of you are wearing a stone or have had a gem for a while that you feel you really are in accord with, and it's in, oh wow, well, I knew I was speaking to the choir, I didn't realize how completely so. Now, another interesting thing he says is that the stones throw off as well as draw in through the positive negative vibrations. So see, that's why these multi-year stones that I'm wearing since I was a young man are very important to me, because I realize we have a simpatico. The crystal is putting out its vibe, the lapis its vibe, but it's also a similar to my vibes. And I've changed through the years, and it knows the dynamics or feels the dynamics of the change. So this is a very interesting thing to keep in mind of this. It is electrical, but it is mostly vibrational, according to Edgar Cayce. Use such for the abilities to become more psychic, clairaudient, or any of those vibrations that build up or, quote, step up a body. So when you're developing clairaudience, which is the ability to hear beyond just the eardrums, Edgar said these extra things are just senses of your soul. They're not supernatural, they're natural to your soul and subconscious, so we kept trying to do them. There were stones that were very commonly recommended, and so I picked them out of many, many stones, and we're going to go through them. Lapis, pearl, amethyst were highly recommended, and here you see amethyst and lapis. In my meditation area, I have a large lapis, I have a crystal, I have an amethyst geode sitting there. I wear certain rings, I put on extra stuff sometimes, and I just get this vortex of field of energy going, and then I even try to rise out of it. You want to rise out to the higher vibes. But these, when you come back, the vibes come with you from the infinite, and your jewelry can then be a helpful little shield or centering device or support device during times. So here is Linguist, and he said that lapis has, quote, the vibratory helpful force for health, for strength, for the ability through the mental self to act upon things, conditions, decisions, and activities, and will bring health and hope. And best of all, the ability to do that so desired. So, any questions?
Good evening, John. Thank you so much for all you do. I would like to ask, what is the best way to do toning and meditation? Does Edgar Cayce have a method for toning?
I have a whole tape on chanting or incantations. I also wrote an article about it, which is on the A.R.E. website, I'm sure, in the blog section, edgarcayce.org, O-R-G. And basically, I learned it back in the 60s when all the gurus came from India. Some of you my age remember that. And it was Satchidananda who told me, it's inner sounding, not singing. And so take your vocal cord energy and put it in your abdominal cavity, your cardiopulmonary, and your cranial cavity, and vibrate those organs and glands. And that's when I really developed good incantation and chanting. And Edgar Cayce gave the chant, A.R.E, and it would go like this. Take a deep breath. And I'm going to show you where my mind is and body is directing the sound and how it moves. So. And so take your vocal cord energy and put it in your abdominal cavity, your cardiopulmonary, and your cranial cavity, and vibrate those organs and glands. Questions?
Hi, John.
Hi.
So, there has been a lot of information through David Wilcock.
Oh yeah, David.
Can you tell me if it is true that David Wilcock says that he is an reincarnation of Edgar Cayce?
I will. David lived in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where the A.R.E. headquarters is, and I was CEO back then. I was the executive director. Now I'm the director of the Edgar Cayce Foundation. He came to me and he shared with me his feelings that he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. He hoped that I would share this information with others and appoint him a position and let him start giving readings and all. And I said, David, I can't do that right yet. I'll tell you what. I want to set up meetings with Edgar Cayce's son and his grandson, who are key members of our staff and board of trustees, and let them interview you and see how they feel. He said, oh, that sounds great. That's cool. I said, okay, good. So I set up the interviews. He met with them. Then I went and met with Edgar's son and grandson, and they both told me, they talked with him for 2 hours, and it's not their father reincarnate. So I called David back. I said, David, what can I do? I have got the son and grandson of Edgar Cayce, members of the board of trustees, telling me You are not reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. I can't do anything. I said, but I promise you this. The A.R.E. will never say anything bad about you. You go do whatever your soul moves you to do, and you can rely on us not coming down on you unless you do something really bad. And I used to get letters all the time and emails, and honestly, it was 50-50. I would get 50% the greatest reading I ever had, and 50% I don't know who he was talking about. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Who is God?
From the Edgar Cayce readings, now you know he was very much a mystic Christian, but when you pushed him on these type of things, he would come out of that thought pattern. And he would lift up and say, it is the universal consciousness, it is the creative forces that are not destructive but creative, expressive in life, uplifting, illumination, not the dark forces of destruction, condemning, judging, hatred, all that. That infinite universal consciousness conceived all these points of consciousness that are us. So it's not a being. The being, Cayce explained, is what John wrote in his gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He's trying to show how there's no separation. So Edgar says, the infinite never is a being, but it conceived of what beingness would be like, and that's the Word. If you read it in Greek, that's the logos. The English word in that gospel is actually the Greek word logos, and that's a lot more than the English word. So you get the idea that God is an infinite consciousness, and it conceived of the quality of beingness with a free will. And let us all have that to become companions to the infinite.
Absolutely amazing. Let's have a standing ovation to show our appreciation to John Van Auken.
Gotta take a little time to think things over. I better read between the lines in case I need it when I'm old.